Did Ajax fulfill the expectations, the English expectations?
I don't think so, because last season the expectations had risen, and obviously reaching the semi-finals was sort of considered a big thing.
I think in England we focus a lot on the players that they've lost. We're incredibly impressed with what they did last season, but it's clear that De Ligt and then De Jong, a big misses. We like Van der Beek. I mean, he really catches the eye, but it didn't massively sort of influence the game tonight, really. But I think the impression of Ajax in England is still very high.
I must say I was a little bit disappointed with Ajax. I think the fact they only had 2 shots on target, and they were 2 shots that were quite soft as well. I was expecting maybe a little bit more in the final third from them, being a bit more dangerous. But I think come a couple of weeks and Stamford Bridge, they'll be right up for it. And I think that we'll see the real Ajax probably in a couple of weeks' time.
Which Ajax player did disappoint you the most today?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Tadic. Not because he was the worst player, but I just thought he might have influenced a bit more, really. I just think he set such incredibly high standards last year that we maybe expected a bit more. I mean, listen, it was incredible. He blew us away last season because everyone could see that it was a talented player at Southampton. But then for him then to step up and be one of the biggest stars, the best players in last season's Champions League was just incredible. So impressed. I'm sure he'll come again because it feels like Ajax have given him a new platform, new oxygen, and I just think that he'll come again. But he's clearly not absolutely at his best at the moment.
I was probably expecting a little bit more from Ziyech. I think he's obviously come with a big reputation now. He's a top quality player, no doubt about it. And I think he's the one player that will come Stamford Bridge will be wanting to make amends for tonight and take his chances a bit more.
Well, there was no one in particular who'd made, say, a terrible error or a horrible mistake. It was just that as a team that didn't gel and didn't look like kind of as fluid a proposition that they have in other games that we've seen from them.
Were there any Ajax players that did impress you today?
I thought the new right back, Serginho Dest, looks really good. I hadn't seen him play live before, and he looks like quite an exciting prospect.
The player that I picked out, particularly in my ratings, was the left back Tagliafico, if I can pronounce that. I just thought he was outstanding last season. I actually came to Amsterdam to interview him ahead of the Spurs game. And he just really caught my eye last season. I thought he was absolutely terrific, and I think he's tailor-made for the Premier League. And again, tonight, I just thought he really maintained those standards. I like the way he's combative. I think he's very creative. He's very strong. He epitomises the modern fullback. He's like tenacious, excellent going forward, really strong defensively. I just think he's a fantastic player.
I like Van der Beek. I think he had a couple of really nice moments. He's definitely a top quality player, and that, again, in a couple of weeks' time, Lampard will make sure that his Chelsea team are paying really good attention to him.
Who do you fancy to win the group?
I think we can discount Lille, and I think between the other 3 teams, it's really hard to call. You'd probably say that Chelsea and Ajax are probably slight favourites over Valencia, because Valencia have had quite a few problems themselves as well. Chelsea, and despite this evening's result, Ajax are kind of have that a bit more momentum. So I think they're both favourites, but that game in 2 weeks at Stamford Bridge will sort of really separate and tell us who's more likely to finish top.
Well, I think Chelsea are in a great position now. If they can beat Ajax at home in a couple of weeks, then you have to think the group's theirs. But it's an interesting group because anybody can beat anybody.